Hello everyone and welcome to the Client Attraction Show. I am your host, I am Deborah Jackson, and I'm an intuitive marketing strategist, and I help female coaches and consultants who are struggling to get clients to scale to 10,000K per month in less than 4 months. Every Friday morning at 9:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, I go live to discuss client attraction strategies. I invite you to ask me questions either before the live event or email them to me or DM them, and I'll answer each and every one of those on a Friday morning. I want this to be as interactive as possible, but most importantly, I want to help you to achieve your business dreams and your life desires. I've been a marketing coach and consultant now for over 15 years, so I have a mountain of experience in helping you or teaching you marketing strategies, client attraction strategies, how to get clients, how to use all the techie stuff, how to brand yourself personally. Basically, I'm like a walking dictionary when it comes to marketing. So I am here to help you to be the best that you can be and to grow your business successfully. Now, I would love for you to remember to invite other coaching and consulting friends that you have and ask them to join the Heart of Marketing, the Facebook group, so that they too can stay up to date with the latest marketing tips and strategies. Plus, I'd love for you to put this time slot into your phone, calendar, diary, whatever you use these days, for every Friday morning at 9:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time, because I'm in beautiful, sunny downtown Brisbane in Australia, but you may be tuning in on a Thursday afternoon wherever you're from, or you could possibly be looking at the replay. Now, this unfortunately had to be pre-recorded for today due to a number of things that is happening on my Friday morning at 9:30. So I've pre-recorded this because I don't want you guys to be missing a thing. So of course, all of you are going to be watching the replay. So for those who are watching the replay, please give me a hashtag replay and then a hashtag where you are going to be tuning in from. I want you to feel free to continue to introduce yourself in the Heart of Marketing Facebook, and I'd love for you guys to get to know each other. Okay, for this week, I am offering just one. That's it. My books are full of coaching clients. So I'm offering just one complimentary coaching call this week, valued at $497, where you and I will discuss your business and what is working and what is not working, and to look at strategies that can plug those not working holes so you can continue to grow your business. As I said, I've only got time in my diary for one coaching call this week. So during this call, we will look at your biggest struggles, what your hurdles are, what's working, what's not, and we will work out a plan to give you to be able to fix those not so working issues and fix them. Okay, so once again, one complimentary coaching call this week. So if you want that call, I want you to hashtag me your name so we can organize a time and where I'll be able to help you. Okay, so let's talk about, today we are going to talk about selling. Okay, so at this point I would go hands up who hates selling, and then hands up who loves selling. All right, now selling is one of the most misunderstood processes in life. Almost universally, we have this negative stereotype, all right, when it comes to selling. And when I ask people what a stereotypical salesperson sells, more often than not, people will say, oh, it's that used car salesperson, or it's the, desperate real estate agent. Now, many of us think that salespeople are fast talkers who talk too much, they don't listen, is self-serving, exaggerates, lies, and confuses us with their arguments. and we will do everything that we can to avoid a salesperson. And we shrink at the idea or the thought of being sold to. Okay, now the other side of selfish selling is where the salesperson virtually does nothing, so on one side they're out there at you all the time, and the other side is that they virtually do nothing. They barely answer your questions, they don't know much about the product or service, and they don't seem to care whether we buy or not. And we normally see this behavior in the retail environment. So at this point I would have said, who here hands up who feels that they have met that particular salesperson? You walk into a shop and you ask a question, they go, oh, I don't know. And you think, well, what are you doing with your day if you're not learning about the products that you're selling, So it does my head in. So give me an emoji if you agree with this or not. There are, however, two styles of selling. Selfish, where the attention is more on the needs of the salesperson. And of course, the other one is selfless, where the attention is more on the needs of the prospective client. Okay, and interestingly, we do encounter selfless selling in many situations, but we don't recognize it. We think it as someone helping us to buy something that is appropriate to our needs and doesn't trick us into buying something that is inappropriate to our needs. Okay, the difference between the two is basically selfless selling entails a salesperson attention on getting a sale with manipulation, closing techniques, and only giving choices of a yes or no. Breaks promises, talks a lot, and must make a sale no matter what. Okay, and I'm sure we've all come across those sort of people before. Whereas selfless selling is placing the attention on the help, to help the prospective. It's being empathetic, it's asking lots of questions, it's listening. It's all about high products or high service knowledge. It makes professional recommendations. It gives prospectives choices of yeses. It keeps promises, and it's okay not to make the sale. So for those of you who have just joined this recording, I want to make sure that you know that I'm only offering one complimentary coaching call this week because I am totally booked. So only one this week. So if you want that one, DM me DM me your name or hashtag your name or DM me so we can organize a time that suits us both. Now, the main reason why we fall into selfish selling behaviors is because most people come from a place of scarcity, all right? We believe if we don't make a sale, we will be out of money, out of work, out of a home, out of a business, all right? We end up doing selfish selling, though we don't want to because we are afraid of losing the sale. Though doing this way, we come from a place of scarcity, all right? Our fear of rejection becomes real. The selling process becomes a struggle. And that's why most people don't like selling at all and do everything possible to avoid it and give up on selling altogether and flip into the order-taking role instead. We talk to people who have called us and are ready to buy our services. We ask people what people need, and then if we can help them, we hope we can get the sale. Though this is just another manifestation of selfish selling. However, if you are good at your profession and you have a strong work ethic, people talk about the work you do will start to grow your business despite your resistance to selling. You will actually start to get better at the sales process in an organic way, and you'll start to naturally ask better questions, listen to people's problems, and recommend a course of action. You'll focus on helping people not just getting on the sale. So drop me an emoji if you agree with this or not. And this is what I'm saying. It's selfless selling. It's more of sitting back in a space of giving than leaning forward in a space of scarcity. So if you sit back with the mindset that you are here to help the prospect or potential client and give as much value, as much help, as much service that you can, then you are coming from a place of empathy, you're coming from a place of wholeness. People get to see the real and the authentic you. They get to love you, while at the same time they get to see your knowledge. They get to feel that you care. They get to feel that you love. So if you start to feel yourself leaning forward because you want the sale, take a breath and lean back and ask questions. And when I coach my clients on the selling techniques, I say to them, we have 2 of these and 1 of those. And that's how we use them. We listen. We ask questions. We delve deep into their needs. Because at the end of the day, sales is a 2-way street. You are interviewing the prospect client to see if they are the right ideal client for you, that they have the right personality traits, that they're going to listen to your information and they're going to not fight against your knowledge. Yes, they're going to listen and become accountable and put into work ethics what you are trying to teach them or help them or guide them with. So you really want a most amazing client to work with, the ones who'll pay you on time, the ones that love you, love your knowledge, love your love the caring nature, because you want the very best for them. And these are the ones that will then give you the raving fans, the fabulous referrals, and great testimonials. And in our social media environment, we want to work with the clients that love us and give us great testimonials, all right? So when you are selling, or when you are having a consultation with, it could be a consultation, could be a discovery call, a clarity call, whatever you want to call it, when you're having one of those get to know you calls with a prospective client, you really want to ask a lot of questions, not about their problems, not only, I should say, about their problems, because you want to be able to see if you can really help them and guide them, but you also want to see if this is the right personality that you feel most comfortable to work with. All right? So it's a 2-way street. It's a win-win situation. So don't lean forward and just want to make the sale. Lean back and actually ask open-ended questions, dive deep, and to see if you can actually help this client and you want to work with this client, okay? Very important. So I'm going to discuss, there is 10 selfless selling techniques, all right? But what I want to do is I want to discuss, say, the top 5 today and give you the heads up on those top 5. So number 1, attention on helping this prospect. And this is what I was saying. Sit back, ask questions with the whole attention of helping, or the whole intention of helping the client. Okay, so if you don't have this intent, it will be impossible for you to do. Okay, if all you are thinking is making this sale, you are coming from that selfish perspective. And selfless means you never think of making the sale. It means you are thinking of serving the prospective client first by helping them make a choice that is appropriate for them. You need to come to each sales situation with a complete sense of openness and discovery to discover what the prospective client needs that truly matches with what you offer. With this kind of attitude, the prospective and you can relax into a conversation that explores possibilities. Okay? Start the process with setting the agenda by stating your core marketing messages and your understanding of the purpose of the meeting. So you could say something like, what I do is help coaches and consultants gain more leads and attract more clients. What I'd like to accomplish in this meeting is to learn more about your situation and explain more about what I do and the kinds of results I've achieved, and see if we might be able to work together. Now, this provides a natural transition to the next part. Okay. Number 2 is all about being empathetic and understanding. Okay, so coming from a space of sitting back and caring, you have to work intentionally at being caring, kind, patient, and all the steps in that selling process. A lot of empathy and caring goes a long way. And I have found that prospectives who were hard to get along with will often soften when I treat them with dignity and respect. They often turn into great clients and produce great results. Okay, now I've worked with clients that were very much the bull out the gate, and they were telling me what they wanted and how they wanted and so forth. But the more I listened and the more questions I asked and the more I unpeeled the layers of the onion to get to the true problem that they were facing, they realized that I really cared about them and I really wanted to help. And with that caring nature, they went, they relaxed, they softened, and they started to build trust because I showed them that I was cared enough to be patient and to really ask them questions to get to the heart of the matter. Okay, so try that yourself. Don't rush anything. Make out that you've got all the time in the world just for them. Now, some of them will push it through because they've got time restraints, but don't you do that. You sit here from a space of I'm here open to help you. Okay, number 3 is what I've been talking about, asking questions and then listening. This is a master skill of selling, all right? And yet it is practiced so poorly as we ask poor questions and we don't really listen. That is where we don't ground ourselves in the first 2 principles, all right? We have to really listen. Okay, questions that don't work are leading questions where you are angling for a particular answer, especially regarding answers the salesperson would like to see. For example, would you like to double your sales this year? Wouldn't you? Selfish, all right? Come from a space of letting them tell you what they would like to do. Because when you say something like, you would like to double your sales this year, wouldn't you? It makes your prospect feel trapped with such a question. All right, so instead you simply want to confirm some information knowing the answer already. For example, your sales goal. And you could say this, for example, I remember your sales goal was to double your sales. Is that correct? Now, the answer helps to move the conversation forward, all right? So if you're going to say, I've asked you this, what your goal is is to double your sales. So if you just want to reinstate that for, I remember your sales goals was to double your sales this year. Isn't that right, or isn't that correct? Okay, and the respondent will say, yes, that's correct. I want to do blah, 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 and the conversation continues. Closed-ended questions that can be answered by yes or no or basic fact aren't bad. They are inefficient, and a lot of them can make a prospect feel like they're under the third degree. Okay. Instead, use simple open-ended questions and you'll get much better information, and the prospect will feel like they can communicate more freely and openly. So for example, tell me a little bit about the marketing in your business presently, and how is it working or not working? So some of the questions that work are past and present questions. So these questions that you ask about the past, present, and problems of the prospect are open-ended. And it's all about what they've done and what they're doing, and questions about what is working and what isn't working, all right? Sometimes you want to get the what's not working straight away, and sometimes you want to take some time to get to it. Again, it depends on the context of the situation and what you know before the conversation starts. If you already discussed what the main problem is, you can start asking questions about how things got that way to determine how serious the problem is. It's not unusual for some people to be protective of the problem and call you saying they need someone for their marketing, and they're just wondering if you were the right person. If you went into the sales conversation assuming they were comparing marketers, you might miss asking the questions about problems altogether, okay, and get right into what you can do. If you get called for your services, there is a problem. It's often bigger than they're ready to admit, okay? So people won't admit to having major problems, so they might respond better to the words like issues, concerns, challenges, instead of, yeah, what's your major problem? Yeah. So implication question is another good tool to use. So for example, what's going to happen if things don't improve? So when you know where the pain is, you need to know what the pain is costing them and what the implications are if the pain continues. Now, you can't assume you know, and so therefore you can't skip over this, all right? Saying something like, you really seem to be concerned about the lack of leads coming into your business. What's going to happen if things don't improve? Okay, sometimes you only need one good implication question to really get the prospect thinking, oh my God, what if I don't get any leads? What does happen? Yeah. So that's a good one to use. Another one is future questions. So what does improvement look like to the prospective? Okay, so future questions you might think as the opposite to implication questions. So the implication questions ask what if you don't act. Okay, so what happens if you don't do something? Future questions ask, what does improvement look like? Okay, so future questions take a whole different kind of thinking from your prospect. Prospects answering past, present, and problem-orientated questions are reporting what's now, what's so, okay? When asking future questions, they might not even consider the possibility of things actually working, and you may have to wait longer to get answers to these future questions. So again, sit back, breathe, and be patient. Tell me where you would like to go with your marketing if we could gain more leads is a good question. So by answering this question, your perspective now has a balanced perspective put my teeth back in, perspective of the situation, and so do you. And this gives both of you a solid foundation to work from. Okay, and then the next good question to ask is questioning questions, all right? Basically, what does the lack of productivity look like? So one of the most important questioning skill is to question into the answers that you receive. For instance, when you get an answer, you don't want to necessarily take it at face value, okay? And you don't want to go to the next question quite quickly. You may want to go deeper into the answer by asking more questions, and don't be afraid to do this. I always say to my clients, sometimes you have to ask 30 questions before you really get the answer to the underlying problem, right? You really get the right answer. So now you've identified a problem that's much more specific than, say, the lack of productivity they are having. Problems could be with making meetings work or making decisions or whatever the client has told you, right? And now your questions can go more into that direction, because you have found more depth, you have come to the core of what their initial problem is, so you can start to unravel that and go into that direction. The whole principle of questions and listening to your prospective client is central to the success of the sales process. You are trying to work out if you can work together, and you can only do that if you learn to ask the past, present problems, implications, and desired future questions. For those of you who have joined me through that session, I just want to let you know that I only have one complimentary coaching call this week. My diary is full. So if you'd love to grab that complimentary coaching session that is valued at $495, then to give me a hashtag your name or DM me, and we can work out a time that suits us both. Okay, number 4 is answer questions directly. Remember that a sales conversation is a two-way street. Your prospect will also be asking you questions, okay? No problem right, wrong. It can be a big problem because you can get into the pitfall of telling them too much too soon, or prescribing before the diagnosis is complete. So keep diagnosing before you prescribe. What you want to do is answer directly and as briefly as possible, but then you want to turn it back and ask them questions. It's a give and take scenario, but you do want the flashlight more on your prospective client than on you. You do not want to take over the sales call, all right? It would be a big mistake to launch into exactly how coaching sessions and trainings are conducted. It would be a little like describing the operation before you really knew what was needed, okay? So be very clear and direct, and then get back to your questions so you truly understand the issues that your prospective client has. And number 5 is to monetize the problems and solutions. So this is very good for consultants, all right, as well as coaches, but it can be a little tricky to get to this when you're only starting. But I am going to give you this one because practice also makes it perfect, all right. So an effective thing to do during the selling conversation is to attach a dollar value to the problem your prospective needs, wants, desires to be solved, right? Often service professionals are selling intangible services, and by monetizing the value of these services, it becomes crystal clear what solving that problem is worth to your prospect, okay? Basically, you are having the prospect give you the data for which you can make a simple calculation that shows what the problem is costing them. Then you can throw it back on them and ask them if they are committed to solving the problem. So, for example, you could say something like this. You, Mr. Prospective Client, said that you have been struggling to achieve some very important goals, but things keep getting bogged down. Do you mind if we take a hard look at what this is costing you? So drop me an emoji if you agree with that. If you agree with, if you have a client and they're not losing weight, what is it costing them? If you have a client that is not growing their business? What is it costing them? If you have a client that is full of anxiety, what is it costing them? Remember, all transactions need to be a win-win. So if your gut is